Welcome, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us here on this Wednesday, Valentine's Day. I appreciate everybody taking a little bit of time out of their morning to come listen to two wonderful speakers. Just going to give everyone a little bit of an introduction to who we are and set some of this room up, and then I'm very happy to let Minda, Michelle, and Devin take the floor and go for it. Let me admit a couple more people into the room. We are going to have a large group today, so I appreciate everybody staying on mute, taking a minute and introducing yourself in the chat. Let us know who you are, who you're representing, and anything exciting that you want to share. We have enabled closed captions, so there is that option as well. Please add your questions to the chat box. When we have moments for questions, please raise your hand. We will have some space for some interaction and some breakout rooms, so please feel free to get engaged as you can. So without too much delay, I want to welcome everybody to our February workshop of the Financial Empowerment Network. We envision communities where low and moderate income individuals and families are able to achieve financial well-being. Our mission is to advance financial empowerment through partnerships that support access to affordable, effective, and relevant services, products, and other resources. We are liaisons, we are connectors, we are capacity builders. We are a network of providers, and so we are, our job is to help you as service providers deliver services in a manner that you can be proud of, and also that you are confident and capable of diving into topics that are big and audacious as our clients as our clients bring to us. Part of that work is hosting wonderful workshops like this one. We are very, very excited to have Devin, Stubblefield, and Minda, Michelle here with us today. I'm going to introduce them more properly here in a minute, but I wanted to offer two more opportunities for everybody. This is Financial Wellness Part 1. I would encourage everyone to check out Financial Wellness Part 2, Trauma and Financial Experiences. How do we recognize and validate the lived experience of the clients that we serve? When I'm done monologuing, I'll drop the registration link in the chat. Or you can go to fenwa.org/events, where you can see all of our upcoming registration links, as well as past video recordings, as well as workshop materials. When you go there, you might also notice that we have another workshop in February. On February 20th at 5 p.m., we are partnering with the Working Families Tax Credit Coalition and the Urban League to provide a Train the Trainer on the Working Families Tax Credit, how to talk about the Working Families Tax Credit with your clients, how to connect folks with the application process, and ensure that people get the most out of tax time here in Washington. There is so much more I could say about FEN, but I want to leave more space for Devin and Minda. So please check us out at fenwa.org. You can email me. I'm going to drop my email in the chat. I encourage everyone to take a minute and see how else you can get engaged with our work. I'm going to stop sharing now so that I can access the words that I'm supposed to say. Oh my goodness. So many people entered the waiting room while I was talking. I apologize to everyone who's joining late. Minda Michelle Mattox is a lifelong educator. She's taught and facilitated workshops for all ages for more than 30 years. Minda Michelle presents on topics closest to her heart: financial wellness and equity and social justice. She has done this work as a teacher, a counselor, and a trainer. She has consulted nonprofits, government entities, and faith-based organizations. Minda Michelle's passion is that people of color be well-versed in matters of professional and business finance. She works to ensure that communities of color have the tools and resources to build generational wealth. This passion drives everything that I do. It is why I'm a connector of people and communities. I connect us to programming and resources that help us thrive. Thank you for joining us, Minda Michelle. And joining is the one and only Devin Stubblefield. the founder of the Faith Finance Center, a financial education and training organization whose mission includes providing training and technical assistance to local organizations focused on financial empowerment training and coaching programs. Devin is a member of the Washington Financial Empowerment Network and the Financial Trainers Task Force, amongst many other wonderful groups. You know him, you love him. Devin Stubblefield is a fantastic human being. I am going to take a minute and throw some links into the chat. Please take a minute, if you haven't already done so, introduce yourself in the chat. And I have the absolute pleasure of turning the rest of our hour and a half over to Devin and Minda Michelle. Please take it away. I'm excited to learn together.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Ryan.
Yes.
Morning, everyone.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Glad to be here. Hey, Minda Michelle.
Hey, brother.
Yes.
How are you?
Doing good. Here we are. First of all, everybody, let me say this. My family thanks every one of you who have sent your well wishes and condolences, based on my wife's recent passing. And I just want to say that I'm good, I'm healing, and I'm glad to be here today. So I wouldn't miss this for anything. And this gives me energy when I'm with my peeps and my peers in the industry. So thank you all so much for all of that. All right. So, all right, Minda Michelle, we are going to kick this thing off. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. The power of relational coaching. And let me say this, everybody. This is going to be a discussion. So Minda Michelle and I are just going to have a conversation, and we will address you as well. We're going to be talking about the power of relational coaching and what that means and how we actually do that with the people we serve based on what we do. And so I have a question for everyone as we kick off this conversation. And my question is, and I want you to think about this, how aligned are we with what we do as coaches, and how aligned are we with the people we served? So we've got two facets to that question. How aligned are we with who we are as coaches, and how aligned are we with the people we serve? So let's start out by letting you put your answer in the chat and give us your thoughts on that. And I'll ask Minda Michelle to comment on that as we are getting your chat comments.
And y'all, you know me, Devin. I have chosen in my 50s, actually I chose in my 40s, to work with people that I can relate to.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes in our jobs, we don't get that choice, right? Fortunately, in my line of work and with the company that I work for, WSECU, the #1 credit union in the state, according to Forbes magazine, just want to say that because it's true. Fortunately, my team has the autonomy to go into the community and work with whomever asks us, and also who we choose to work with. And I choose to work in communities of underserved folks. And I get the autonomy on my job to do that. And so that means that in a culturally, a lot of times I'm aligned with whatever clients I'm working with or whatever folks I'm presenting to. And then we also know that a lot of times we're not, right? And so I think that's what this conversation will flush out. How are we working with folks that we may not have the same background as, and that sometimes we may not feel aligned to? So we'll flush that out in the next hour or so. How about you, Dev?
Yeah, well, let's really talk about what relational coaching is, because that's really where we're going with this conversation today. And I want you guys to think about this. And relational coaching is this way of being that it emphasizes building a strong and trusting relationship between the coach and the person being coached in a transformational way. So it's not about the transaction of financial coaching, right? It's not about the transaction of just being with someone and helping them to get to a particular outcome. It is really about the humanness, the human part of the relationship that makes this really meaningful, makes it palatable, makes it really, really awesome for people to be in a coaching type relationship. And that's what we're talking about. So when I asked you guys earlier about how aligned are you with yourself as a coach, and how aligned are you with the people that you're coaching? And, that's a big question. And I realize that. But here's the thing. In 2024, you guys know we got all kind of stuff going on right now. And the issue is, are we making impactful engagements to where they're really life-changing and people are really moving themselves forward, not because you suggested it or that you just simply raised awareness, but they are truly looking at their own behaviors. They're truly looking at what they're doing, what they're not doing, and then deciding that, hey, I'm going to get better. I'm going to be more financially stable. I'm going to reach for financial wellness in any manner that works for me. And so that's where we are with this. And so we just wanted to start out with that and to think about the power of that. If we are being catalysts of just being human, it's okay to be yourselves. And I always say, and you guys have been in some of my financial coaching trainings, I always say this: coaching is not designed to take away your personality. No, it's actually designed for you to be your best self when you're with someone, even though it's client-led, but you still bring that human element into the equation so that it feels tangible, it feels real, it feels transformational. Minda, Michelle.
Yep. I'm trying to keep up with the chat also, Dev, and someone said something great. Sometimes I see my past, Donna said this, sometimes I see my past and present self in clients I serve. And so we're going to flesh that out too, right, Dev? Like how we're feeling as we're serving our client, what we bring to the room as we're serving our clients. So thank you, Donna, for that comment.
Absolutely. Yes. There's another comment from Kayla, taking the time to let them know that I am not judging them and that they're making a first step coming in to help themselves.
Yep.
Awesome.
Because we're coming alongside, right? It's not prescriptive.
Yes, it's not prescriptive. That's exactly right. Thank you. All right. So Minda, why don't you take it from here and just lead us into our discussion?
Okay. So when we were planning this, we talked about what brought us to coaching, right, Dev? What brought us to this work that we do. And I'm sure most of us on the call, if we are coaches, we intentionally came to this. Some of us, it might have been, oh, this is part of the job, right? I will tell you that when I came on at the credit union, I did not necessarily expect to be coaching folks. Our team goes out and we talk to folks about money, and we impart some knowledge. We do workshops around a lot of the things that you all do workshops around, right? And yet a natural progression of that is to be coaching. Now, I have always, in every job I've had, incorporated financial education and financial wellness. And now I get to just do it all the time, which I love. However, I also, like I said, I choose to do this work because of my background, because of where I came from. And Deb, I don't know if you do this when you do your teachings. I ask folks what their first memory of money is. And when you and I were talking and planning out what we were going to talk about, you took it a step further. And I ask people what their first memory of money is, and then I share when we do the breakout what mine is. And y'all listen, a lot of us come from backgrounds where, we weren't rich. My mom was an immigrant, and she spent 40 years of her life bringing her family over from the Philippines. And my first cognizant memory of how money really affected me was my senior year of high school, when my parents, I have a twin, our parents called us in their bedroom, and they told us in our senior year of high school that they did not have the money to send us to college. Now, my mom, being an immigrant, did not go to college here in the US, so she didn't know how to navigate the college application process, anything about college. My mom didn't know how to navigate. We had to figure that out. And yet mom had been sending money over to the Philippines for all my life. And so I had some resentment around the people who were nurturing me and what they did and didn't have available for me. And I carried that, y'all. I carried that into adulthood. And so I am intentional now. Whenever all my career, I've been intentional about going into communities of color and teaching immigrants and talking to immigrants about money, starting with my own mother and my father, who was a Black man from the South, who did not want to talk about money. So Dev, how did you come to this work?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that context that you had when you're in high school. You know, mine happened a little bit later. I was actually a little older. I was about 22 years old. And let me tell you guys, this was something that really shook my world. Um, my my father committed suicide, and my mother was just like left not knowing what to do. And I was working. For those of you who've been knowing me for a while, know that I used to work for C First Bank, Seattle First National Bank, which for short, C First Bank, which got bought out by Bank of America eventually. But I was a drive-through teller at the time, and loved my job at the bank, and was learning everything I could about banking and all that. And then when this thing happened in my family, I asked my branch manager. I said, "Is there anything that the bank can do for my mother?" And they knew that my father had passed, and he said, "Sure, invite her down to the branch. We'll look at her situation and we'll see what we can do." So I go back and I tell mom about that, and I'm thinking that we're gonna help her get some sort of consolidation loan, or just something that's going to help get her back to some regularity of functioning financially after the devastating loss. Because one thing that happened is, because my father committed suicide, as many of you know, there's a suicide clause in most life insurance policies, and it didn't pay out because of that. And so we were in a lot of trouble. And so we were thinking that, okay, C First Bank is going to do something. We're going to get some things handled for mom. So my mother lived in Lacey. She drives all the way up, and that's an hour and 5 or 10 minutes away from Seattle, right? And so she drives all the way up. I'm at the branch, 13th and Madison in Seattle. You guys know the area. And she walks in. I greet her. We sit down with the branch manager, and then she explains what's going on. Then he gives her an application. Okay, so we get that filled out. And then back then, they didn't have the computers right there at the desk. He had to go to another room and process the application. He came back about 15 minutes later, and he says, "I'm sorry, but we're not going to be able to give you any type of loan." Talking to my mother. And then he said it was because of her credit. And that startled me, because I had never in my life had ever had a conversation about credit with my mother at all, ever. Never happened before that time. So obviously, in that moment, when he says we cannot help you, and that the bank would be sending a letter, an adverse action notice that says why they couldn't do it, but he gave us the generality. It was based on credit. She looked at me, and her eyes said it all. And her eyes said, "Why did you bring me all the way down here for this?" In that moment, I mean, it was crazy. My heart sank. I saw tears running down her face. She got up, she thanked the branch manager for his time, still staring at me, and walked out the bank. Didn't even say bye to me. Walked out the bank, was gone. And that was the day that I said, "What in the world just happened?" My parents never, ever told me anything about their financial condition. They owned 2 houses. We lived in Lacey. I mean, to me, on the outside looking, and well, I'm inside looking in, right? Inside looking in, I should say that. It didn't appear that stuff was messed up. I had no idea. And my mother was completely embarrassed that day. And she told me that later. And I had to I had to eat that.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then, to make it kind of worse, the manager had said just before she walked out, she said, we'll talk to Devin and see if there's something we can do for him. Of course, that didn't help, right? I mean,
Mm.
that was not the right thing for him to say. I know he was trying to help, but um, here's the thing. That day is when I decided that I've got to get this figured out. I've got
Mhm.
to get this down. And how come I didn't know about this? Well,
Mhm.
what could possibly be wrong with my mom's credit? What's going on to where she can't get something from the bank? I mean, all these questions are going through my mind. And then I say to myself, I'm going to commit myself to
Mhm.
making sure that this never happens again.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
my situation was birthed out of the fire. It was
Mhm.
tragic, right?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
I didn't know what was going to happen next. It was absolutely insane.
Mhm.
The 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 feelings that was generated from that one visit to the
Mhm.
bank. That
Mhm.
one no created a ripple effect. And let me tell you something, you guys. It took literally 11 years.
Mm.
11 years from that day. That was in 1988. From
Mm.
that day forward, it took until literally 11 years later before my mother recovered from
Mm.
that.
Mm.
Thus, during that whole time, I was committing myself to learn everything I could so I can
Yes.
teach the rest of the family
Yeah.
how not to
Yes.
have that experience. So
Yeah.
that's how it got started for me.
Right. And for a lot
Yeah.
of us, a lot of times these are careers where how we come to be where we are now, it's birthed from what we've experienced in life, right? So thank you for being vulnerable, brother, and sharing that with I don't know how many people are on the call. So thank you for that. And let's talk then about what we bring to the table and what our clients are bringing to the table. You shared with me, and please share with all of us your this definition, this financial operating system. And let's talk about that. Can we do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So think of it this way. So we all have phones. We've got Android or we have Apple, right? And each of them, we have the Android operating system. We also have the iOS operating system, right? And
Mhm.
so the whole thing is that there is something fundamental within the structure of the phone that makes it work. Just as in our financial management, our financial execution, even our money mindset,
Mhm. Mhm.
there is something that gives us the way to do things.
Right.
And what's interesting is that the way to do things sometimes comes, like in my scenario, out of tragedy. It
Mhm.
comes out of trial and error. It comes out of trauma. It comes out of all these other things. But what happens is we begin to operate financially based on these things,
Mhm. Mhm.
these triggers,
Yep.
our experiences that now we start doing stuff subconsciously.
Yeah.
You ever wonder why some people seem to always run next to near zero balances on their accounts,
Mm.
or others who stay highly leveraged in their utilization ratio on
Mm.
their credit accounts?
Mhm.
There are things that are going on in our operating system that's causing these behaviors to happen over and over and over again. And we are in a situation where we as coaches have to be able to coach through that. And
Yeah.
many of us don't even understand that we're dealing with an operating system that's
Right.
been in place for years.
For decades. Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm. And so we want to invite you all. We want to invite the audience to come in and talk with us about this. So, Deb, are you ready for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
breakout rooms? Okay. You want to set that up? Do we talk about financial sentiment? Do you want to do that before we go into the rooms?
Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. But before we do that, let's talk about our journey as financial coaches, because when we get into the first breakout room, we want to be able to relate as financial coaches to what we're saying. So let's do that first.
Okay.
But here it is. So many of you are financial coaches, you're trainers, you're educators, you're in this space. And ask yourself, why am I in this space? Right? Well, what is my purpose here? And I would think that a lot of us are doing this because it's not just a job for us. We really want to see financial security happen across the board, right? There's many of us who believe that and who want that to happen. Now, one thing I want to say about this, you guys may remember part of the journey for me was the Washington Asset Building Coalition back in year 2010. Alice Cody, you guys all know Alice, myself, and Diana Dollar, who was the former executive director of the Prosperity Agenda. We went to this emerging financial coaching train the trainer that Central New Mexico College. Some of you may have gotten trained by them over the years, but we went to get this financial coaching train the trainer so we could bring this back to the WABC. So we did that. It was awesome. One of the greatest trainings ever I've been in. What happens was financial coaching was starting to emerge because the University of Wisconsin-Madison, the Financial Security Center, you guys know J. Michael Collins, they call him the father of financial coaching. They was putting out a whole bunch of stuff and research around this new emerging thing of financial coaching. Now, remember, me personally, I'm still, on fire based on what happened to mom years ago. So this is my context. And so when Alice said, hey, we ought to bring financial coaching to the state of Washington, Diana Dollar and the organization agreed, WABC agreed, and then we began to put together the Financial Coaching for Prosperity training, which many of your organizations have gone through that training over the years. And the issue here is that we were trying to help us, those of us in our state, to really get a handle on financial coaching, but not just to say that we're doing a different type of engagement that's not counseling, but we were doing it because we really wanted to help people move the needle. Remember back then, it was always about asset building. You guys remember that was the buzzword back in the day, asset building. The financial capability, financial wellness, all that came later. But at first, it was asset building. Why? Because the research was saying that if people have a financial event like the one my mother did, loss of income, loss of spouse, then the chances of them having a bad financial scenario is very high. So the asset building context at that point was to help people to start to build a resilience or fortitude against financial shock. Now, the CFPB eventually came out with the financial wellness, their financial well-being scale. Then there was the financial capability scale, but it was all designed to really help people to understand how can we navigate our lives and still be okay if we have financial events that are debilitating. So with that being said, so now we have a whole state full of financial coaches, right? I mean, financial coaching has totally arrived everywhere. And so here's the thing. So as we're talking about relational coaching, we really intended for coaching to be something that was an unforgettable experience for the people that we serve. And so my question is are we carrying that out today, especially right now in this very volatile environment? And so I just wanted to give you all that context because why are we here today? Today we have the Financial Empowerment Network. We have the Financial Trainers Task Force. We have the Financial Coaching Network. I mean, we look at all this stuff that has been birthed out of the effort. And the point is we are all here. But now more so than ever, I think it's time, Minda Michelle, that we really take an assessment of how we are actually showing up every day, and are we actually helping people to transform, helping them to take a look at their behaviors, their actions, and really do something that's going to help them to maintain this pace over the long haul. And so that's why we're here.
And I feel like also, especially people like Charnel, who's I hope is on the call, who have been doing this like you for decades, I think we're seeing a shift to the holistic coaching, right? And not just prescriptive, this is what you need to do. No, let me come alongside you and help you walk in your power to get this done yourself, right? And so that's why I really wanted you to talk about your financial operating system and your financial sentiment, because it's called other things for other coaches, but you're a trainer of coaches, and I hope y'all are getting all this. Abby made a comment. She's glad to see the history. Devin has given us the history of coaching in the state, because Dev's been in this game for decades. Not to date you, brother, but he's been doing this as young as he looks. He's been doing this for some decades. And so I hope that some of us who are new to this are getting this history and seeing, and some of us who've been doing it for a long time, we're seeing that shift to the holistic care of our clients, right? So
Yes.
let's read a couple of comments, Deb, before we go on, because I still do want you to do this financial operating. And y'all, we are going to be, it's a conversation between me and Devin, but we are inviting you all. We'll do breakout rooms, so bear with us as we talk. I did see somebody's comment about learning from their client. Oh gosh, where'd it go? There's so many comments. Learn something new. Natalie says, I learned something new from a client. She said she was in recovery. She learned that she couldn't save money because if she had money, she'd spend it on drugs. And so some people are afraid to have money in hand, right? Some of us have money in hand and we don't want to let it go. And we know that. So these are some of the comments, Deb, that are in the chat.
Yeah, but that makes me think about financial sentiment. And I know we've mentioned that a little bit. And so let's work with that for a minute. Okay. So you guys know in any given moment that, let's say, for example, you're coaching someone and they're telling you how they feel, that, oh, I've tried to get out of debt and nothing seems to work. I'm still paying. I've been paying on these credit cards for 6 years and the balances are still high. People, so their sentiment sometimes gets adjusted based on current day situations. And I want you guys to think about this. Sometimes we're coaching people whose sentiment is really negative around money. Their sentiment's negative. But the thing about sentiment can change based on circumstances. So point in case, on payday, people typically feel good on payday. Maybe 3 days later, not so good if they've spent all their money on things. And I saw someone said about someone, if they got money, they would spend it on drugs. That's interesting. I think, Natalie, your comment there, that's interesting. But that is really based on how she's thinking about what she should do, and is probably set by her operating system that pushes her into a direction of doing something that might appease her in other areas, but it totally debilitates her finances. And so these are the kind of things that we're working with, Minda, Michelle, and so I'm just really, really wondering, are we really aware of the implications that we have with people when we talk about their sentiment, their financial operating system, and hoping that they get to a point to where their outcomes, their goals are eventually reached, and they can continue on and then teach their family to do the same.
Definitely. Are we ready, Jeff, for a breakout room?
Yes.
Let's address some of these. Somebody asked a question that maybe we can get to this later on, Deb. It sounds like this might be a new person to coaching. They said something about let's see. I want to address that. He said, if you don't, this is Alexander. Do you have to be financially sound to become a financial coach? And if no, how can we advise something when we aren't there yet?
Oh, I love that question.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yes.
Let's address that, and then everybody's really being with us. Let's address that very quickly and go to our breakout rooms.
Yeah. So, Alexander, okay, so first of all, thank you for your comments. And here's the thing. We are all striving for financial wellness, right? It's a journey. And if either of us were 100% financially independent, we probably wouldn't be working anymore, right? I mean, if we had it all together. So my point is, we are all still working. So we're all still contributing to our retirement. We're all still contributing to reducing debt. We're all still contributing to building assets. We're all still building. So it's like we are still yet in progress. But here's the thing. I think, to answer your question, do you have to be financially sound to become a financial coach? Actually, to become a financial coach, you just have to understand, first of all, what financial coaching is, and then be able to implement that and put those things into practice, right? And then be able to raise awareness with others around these things and have that human connection. But the reality of it is we are all on the financial continuum. We are all just in various different places. Some people are still closer to the starting line than the finish line, but we're all on the continuum. So no, we don't have to have it all together, because I know that that comes up a lot in social services, where some of the people that's coaching others saying, well, hey, I'm not too far off from the same situation I'm coaching guys on, right?
Right.
And so the point here is that, no, just, I think you could just give yourself a break, because everyone is still striving towards this particular place that we can determine. Yes, go ahead, Minda.
And as we learn and as we do our professional development, we're implementing these practices in our own lives.
Yes.
Right. So that's an awesome question. And I think, Devin, we're at 10:57, bro. So we need to do these rooms. But that's an awesome question. And I just want to point out, especially for those who are new to coaching, as you do your professional development, as we learn, we implement in our own lives. Right.
Sounds good. All right. So let's go to our breakout group.
And Ryan has them ready. You're going to set up the question for us?
Yes. Okay. So if we can type this in the chat as well. The question is, what is your zone of genius or niche within financial coaching that benefits the people you serve the most? Okay. So what is your zone of genius?
And Ryan or Jennifer, please. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Deb. I'm sorry.
What is your zone of genius or niche within financial coaching that benefits the people you serve the most? Okay. So we're talking about your zone of genius. What is your particular thing that you believe you bring to the table that's going to benefit people the most as you do your financial coaching?
Let me see thumbs up, y'all. How did that go for you? Some of us, it might have been triggering, and I recognize that fully. And then for others, you know, it can be a great, I love to hear what my colleagues are saying and how we've all come to do what we do, how we feel about what we do. So let's talk about it. Now, listen, I can't see. Ryan, you can see everyone. I can't see everyone. So can you call on folks, Ryan?
I certainly can. If folks raise their hand, I can manage the 68 people in this room. Goodness gracious, everybody.
Okay, because we're doing share outs, y'all. We're going to do share outs, and we've got about 5 minutes actually now to do this part of it.
So I wanted to apologize to my team. I think it was two of us that we really love to talk, and Brian knows that. So we basically didn't give a chance to our third person. I am so sorry. I do apologize. I get so excited when I share how I became a financial coach and how much I loved it. I am so sorry, Jacqueline. Please forgive me for that.
Bless you, Mary. Thank you for your passion, darling. Well, does someone else in your group want to share what you all talked about? You want to give that third person a chance to share?
Jacqueline, I think it's a good opportunity for you to tell all of us.
If she wants to share with the whole group. Who was that? Let's go to if Jacqueline.
Mandy has raised her hand. Go for it.
Well, I was not the third person in Mary's group, but I wanted to amplify what Mary just did with us as a group here in this session. And it was something that we talked about in my group, which is building connections, showing our own humanity, showing our own vulnerability in order to have that connection with our clients, in order for them to not feel alone, like they've the only people in the world to ever have made a mistake, to ever one of our coaches talked about, having to make the decision of, I got to fix my car so that I can get to work, so that I can pay my bills, or I could pay my bills and have no money and no money moving forward, right? Like we all have come up against that kind of decision, and our ability to connect and to bridge and to show our humanity and vulnerability creates the opportunity for us to be the best coaches that we can be in that space for our client. And Mary talking about, I just spoke over the third person and we were having so much fun. Like that authenticity is one of the ways that we can do that. And I just really loved that example.
Awesome. Thanks, Mandy. And I love the authenticity, the passion shows through with this group. I love that. Who else wants to share what your group talked about? We got a few minutes. I don't know what people are putting in the chat. Will Booth, please. Will, you going to come off mute and talk to us?
Good. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, our group was really, I love how everyone shared, again, their very personal story, and which for me, working within Native communities across the state, that to build that trust. So like when we do our workshops and our gatherings, I share this numerous times, a point in my life when I actually get a phone call from a judge ordering me to appear before them, and then introduced me to an attorney to file bankruptcy because someone in the family was using my name on their credit applications for store credit cards, and the debt was so high, and the judge was able to pull up, like my personal stuff, and it's like, you will never pay this off. So talk with this attorney. They're going to work with you pro bono, and sadly, you have to file bankruptcy.
Wow.
And it destroyed me.
Yeah.
But it also forced me to, okay, what is a credit report? Didn't know anything about that. What are all these, wait, you can get credit cards at department stores? So when we go into these workshops and we talk about credit reports and credit scores and credit cards and budgeting, I can share my own personal because it was real.
Yeah.
And that followed me for years. So yeah, the love of being able to be vulnerable, to build that empathy, where they then open up, and then now we can have those, like it was mentioned, real conversation.
That's awesome. Thank you, Will. That's so we know a lot of us come to this because something traumatic or something really challenging happened to us in our personal life, and that's how we come to this. I see Julio, or is it Julio?
Julio's fine. So I was in a group with two amazing women, two single parents that have wonderful stories to share. I'm not going to talk about their stories because I do want to encourage them to speak out and share their own stories.
Right, it's their story. Yeah.
Yeah, trying to hone into the question, I spoke about one specific skill that I hope to share with people, which is the idea of creating a $1,000 emergency fund for a person or a family. And the reason why I think that's an important skill to share and an important goal to help people to get to is because, number one, for many of us, it might seem impossible to put together $1,000, but it is possible. It might take time, but it can be done. And once it's done, pressure lifts from people's shoulder. People feel more relaxed and they feel more in control, because if they were able to put together $1,000 that might seem impossible, even if it took a year or 2 years, then they feel like, now I can take the next bite, the next chunk. And I'm just going to stop to give others the chance to share.
Thank you, Julio. That was awesome. Thank you. Dev, I know we're at 10:56. You want to take at least one more? Can we do that?
Yeah, let's go with Kim, and then there's two more. Let's get these last two.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
we'll stop at these two, y'all, just for sake
Yeah.
of time. Who we got first? Kim?
Kim Toski, yeah. Thank you.
Hi there. So
you.
Tierra Bonds and I were in a small group with two folks who serve on the periphery of financial wellness and coaching. So so they listened, and Tierra and I talked about what we both are super impassioned about, which is credit for karma versus credit for mortgage readiness, and the differences between the two, and one being super old school, the old counseling days, Devin. Oh my gosh. Yes. And Devin and I worked together. Oh, jeepers.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say how many years. So, but that was, it was very fun to be able to talk about some of those subtle differences that if you're not in this space, you may
Yeah.
not even be aware of. So thank you for the breakout sessions, guys.
Yay. Thanks, Kim, for
Yes, Kim.
sharing.
Thank you.
Who's this corporate iPhone that has their hand up?
Hi, this is Stephen Whitmore.
Hey, Steph, that's my colleague, Stephen Whitmore. Change your name,
Hey,
bro.
Minda.
Share
Hey,
what you
Minda.
got, bro.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, first and foremost, I was just really delighted and really just my heart really was full of warmth just hearing everybody's approach to financial coaching, because, you know, in the field of finance, you know, it's really kind of typecast as a numbers game, and you know they go by facts and figures, and it's more head than heart. So I was really pleased to hear that. What I thought about was actually a quote from Mike Tyson. You know, in the context of the discussion, and the quote goes, "Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth." And you know, so it's for me in our group, you know, we really talked about our zone of genius being derived from our lived experience, and because some of those experiences we had weren't so positive, we were able to kind of develop an empathy, you know, that's really necessary when you're dealing with matters intimate as finances and trying to help people go from, you know, one end of the spectrum to the other. So just wanted to say that.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Steph. Glad you're here.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, all of you guys, for all these comments. This is awesome. And so we're going to shift gears a little bit. And now we know that trauma has totally been one of the things that has really emerged as a barrier for some. And right now, in today's volatile environment, in our fintech world that we have, Minda, Michelle, even with banks and credit unions and all these organizations who are moving towards technology. And so how are we adjusting to coaching with technology? Now, you guys may recall last year, the CFPB published the Guide to Remote Financial Coaching. If you haven't seen that, please go look it up on their site. And it was addressing this whole thing and about, well, how are we shifting in our world right now where you may not have face-to-face appointments with people. Your financial coaching now could look like a FaceTime on your phone, or it could look like email exchanges, or it could even be text exchanges. And so we have a scenario where Zoom, Teams, and all these things are replacing these in-person sessions. And so what I want to talk about is, even with the challenges that we're working with today, Minda, Michelle, can you speak to, like, even with trauma, and given the fact that we may have to do the coaching in a remote way, but how are we working with coaching, making adjustments, and still addressing their trauma and some of the other things that people are experiencing?
Oh man, so we and most of us on this call, we know that this space around financial trauma coaching is starting to be the new sexy thing, for lack of a better way to put it, right? Most of us, like we said, we've come to this out of trauma, some kind of trauma in our lives, and yet now that it's been this codified how we coach, and now that we're talking about holistic coaching, it has become the sexy thing to do, right? Oh, I'm a financial trauma coach, which I am, by the way. So, but a lot of times now, I don't know how many of us actually do a lot of remote coaching. I have come to, my coaching is more small group, only because, Devin, we talk about, we're in these we're deciding to work in these communities of people of color or underbanked or under-resourced folks. And a lot of times the education that I bring evolves into small group coaching with, for example, families. I've had for one time I was tabling at a wellness event, and they asked you, well, you're a financial wellness educator, so come table. Well, out of that, a couple of families asked me to coach the family, right? And so I don't do a lot of remote coaching. A lot of times it's over a meal at somebody's house, Dev. And a lot of times we have informally, I'm sure all of us have done this with our own family members and friends, right? We're informally coaching folks. And my hope and my prayer is that we're actually putting our coach hat on. Devin puts his coach hat on with me a lot. I'll say something and Devin will go, let's unpack that, sister. And I love it. But the trauma that we're talking about, though, is we're listening to each other's trauma and we're applying like you do with me, Devin, and like you just, it's who you are, so you can't help it. We're listening to somebody's scenario and we are applying the coaching hat, because coaching is about pulling out of our folks the solutions that they have within them already, right? And I don't like the word empower. I don't have any power to give anybody. It's coming alongside and helping you find your own power, right? So I don't use the word empowerment. I use the word helping you find. Somebody help me with a new word. Help me find the power that's already in me. Help me to utilize the power that maybe I don't know I have. Am I going off track? So so I don't do a lot of remote, Dev, but we come to it organically, I think. Some of us come through it like when you were working for the bank, you'd be the person on the floor up at that day, right? And they'd say, well, Devin is your financial advisor for this day in this time. But I think the way that things have evolved now, we are all in the communities that we want to serve, number one. And thank God financial coaching has evolved that way, right? We're in the communities that we want to serve, and we are going out and garnering our clients just naturally from the education that we're bringing to our communities, most of us, I think. You think that's a fair assessment, Dev?
I do. I think that it's really going to be based on everybody and their relation to the people they serve. Because I'm looking at the chat and I'm seeing people put in there that remote coaching is safe and comfortable for a lot of people. It reduces barriers. People don't have to go get childcare, and they can be more fully present. And so it was important enough for the CFPB to publish this guide, because the trend around the country was that there were less and less one-on-one interactions where everybody's in the same room, and it's more about this, okay, we'll do a FaceTime at 6:30 p.m. after dinner, or get on a Zoom or a Teams call, where a lot of people are feeling that this is how they want us to engage them. And so with that being said, what I wanted to do is see if we can actually do a quick exercise. I'm going to put a whiteboard up, and hopefully everybody can do this. And what I'm going to do here, I'm looking for thank you guys. I see you guys with the controls in there. Yeah, cool. Ryan, I'm trying to find where I can type into this. Do we have all 100% access?
You should, but let me double check everything.
Yeah, I'm looking for, I want to be able to, yeah, I don't see the text tool that lets me type into the whiteboard. And,
Okay, I do, which makes me think that I have corrected it. There we go. Try now.
okay, let me see, I still don't see it. Okay, so here's what we want to do. Ryan, if you don't mind, we want to put two headers on the whiteboard. One is going to be financial sentiment. Let's go ahead and type that in. And then across from that, on the right side, put financial trauma. And yeah, great. And so what we want to be able to do is get all of your guys' input. So let's say, for example, if you're working with someone that you know whose financial sentiment is a little tough right now, what kind of adjustments are you making? Because we're talking about relational coaching. So, if you can, hopefully everybody has the ability to put a sticky on there or type it. I still don't have the ability to type or do anything on this board,
I
Ryan.
lost I was trying to.
Let's see. Hold on. Okay. Text.
Financial sentiment on one side.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah,
Okay, I don't
yeah,
see.
yeah. Usually they're the tools that we could use to
Yeah,
access visible, but they're not visible on our screens.
Are they
interesting.
visible to everyone else, Ryan? Do you all, the audience, do you all see the two headings on either side of the board?
Yeah,
Yes. Okay, great. Thank
yeah.
you.
We see the heading, but we don't see the tools like to create a sticky note or to type text in. We don't have that ability.
Uh,
Okay.
some folks have messaged me that whiteboard gives a message that only people from the same organization have permission. I think this is a outside of this meeting solve or solution.
Okay. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, let's. All right. No worries. Let's stop the whiteboard then, and then what we'll do is we'll just go back to the chat. Okay. So what we were looking forward to do here was to kind of just hear from you all. What kind of adjustments are you making as coaches? Again, with the context of relational coaching, that are you making when you know that their sentiment is a little tough right now? What adjustments are you making? And then what adjustments are you making when clearly they might be experiencing financial trauma? So just kind of wanted to kind of get the thoughts from the whole room on these two things. When sentiment is negative, or when you hear people are going through some type of financial trauma, what is one thing that you could share with the group here on how you make adjustments to your coaching?
I love it. Abby's already responded.
Yeah.
Abby says, I really focus on the win, no matter how small. Thank you,
Yes.
Abby. Let them know they're in control. That's right, Kayla.
Yes.
We let them know it's okay. We listen before we speak. That's a good one, Julie.
Mhm.
Yep. We can invite people to come off mute, can't we?
Yes, we can.
We let them talk.
Minda, how do you deal with financial trauma? Since that's your deal now. So
So we're talking about in relation to the question, how do I do this when they're in a
yes.
negative, in a really negative space? A lot of what everyone else is saying, let them talk. A lot of times it's like, for example, I'm a verbal processor. So a lot of times it's as they talk, as I talk, I get smarter. As folks talk, as clients talk, the solution presents itself as someone is talking, right? And so a lot of this is just listening. I love, someone else said something about, and I saw something scroll through the chat about small goals. I love that because Julio said something about saving $1,000 and how that can seem really huge. Well, I have a client who has a $4,000 debt that they don't know how they're going to pay off, and they feel like they need to come up with $4,000, right? But it is in fact the small. When I have $50 extra, let me put it toward this $4,000 debt, right? So like I think Abby said it and someone else, small goals, small wins, allowing the client to be the one to talk so that they find their own solution. And then you know this because you are so awesome at this, Devin. As they talk, help flush out by asking helpful, open-ended questions, right? Because a lot of times as someone's talking, they get the answers right there, but we as coaches, we help them to grasp it by asking the open-ended questions. So let's see what other folks are, let them talk. What folks are putting things in the chat. Our time is flexible.
Yes.
Information is not temporary. It'll be available to them always. Share our lived experience. Yes, Olivia.
Yes. Yes.
Let our clients direct the conversation. Right. A lot of times they just need someone to listen. And again, in the talking, the solution presents itself. A lot of reframing. Yes, Jennifer. Especially if it's self-blame. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Remind folks that we all make the best decisions we can in the moment with the information we have. That's right. Positive and encouraging focus on progress, not perfection. That's right, Pam.
Yes. Yes.
James
Yes.
says active listening, unconditional strengths-based support to help them discover their own solutions. Yes, James. Yeah, Devin is great at asking powerful questions. Yes, he is. Okay to fail. It's not okay to let failure be your end. And I love to say, Julio, we don't fail, we learn.
Yes.
We don't lose. We win or we learn. There's no fail. In the failures, and I'm putting that in quotes, that helps to prepare us for the next, right, Julio? Thank you, Julio. Validating concerns, reassuring they can work through the issue at hand. Julio's yes. Yeah. Master coaches on the call, Deb.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. But here's the other thing. What about self-care for the coaches? Like for us, right? Because one thing I always say to people is that, okay, so at 10 o'clock, you show up for your coaching session with your client and you're good to go, you're energetic. At 2 o'clock, the next client comes in, you might not be as energetic and as, awesome as you were at 10. And so here's the thing that we have to think about. Minda Michelle, think about how is it that the 2 o'clock client gets a lesser version of us, right? Than the 10 o'clock client, because we might be tired, we might be low energy, we might be hungry. And so self-care is very important, because one thing that I always think about is, are we being our best all the time, or at least being intentionally being our best? And so I want you guys to think about that. Think about, and when I'm a 10 o'clock a.m. coach, am I the same coach at 2 o'clock p.m.?
Yeah.
And if you're not, then why not? And then what can we do to make it happen? Right.
And that's what we'll talk about in a minute. But Dev, let me give a little bit of context around when Devin framed, and those of us on the call who know Devin coaches. So he is a master. That's unequivocal. But what Devin, when Devin and I were planning this out, when he said that to me, are you the same coach at 2 p.m. as you are at 10 a.m.? I thought, no, because I'm a morning person. And from the morning to the afternoon, we are people. We're just people. So we may have received some news. I may have gotten a call from my kid's school. I may have gotten a call from my doctor about something that I've been waiting to hear, right? And so when Devin asked me that, y'all, and a lot of us have been in this space, whether we've been coaches for how many years or even just in the financial education space, when he presented that question to me, it was like someone hit me in my chest, because I hadn't even thought of it. So self-care is vital, says Olivia. Yeah. Olivia takes walks. Julia says it's hard to have boundaries, especially when we're working in communities we love, right, Julia? If we're working with folks in our own communities. I want to help everyone with everything. I have to intentionally schedule client appointments so as not to bring the exhausted, hungry, overwhelmed version of myself to the meeting. Yes. Thank you, Deb, for bringing this up, she says. We're okay. Self-care is vital. Who else? Y'all are putting great things in here. A lot of us takes walks with our dogs, our people, and our own people get a lesser, yes, Jennifer, our own families and people get a lesser version of ourselves when we get home. That's burnout, right? Because we bring our work home with us. That's compassion fatigue. Because I come from education and social work, a lot of burnout, a lot of compassion fatigue in this work as well. Yes. I think I got most of the comments, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is great.
Other forms of self-care, y'all. Let's put other forms of self-care in here, because we do. I mean, and I know a lot of us talk to each other. There are some of y'all on this call that I admire, and I go to, Devin, Charnel. I love Mandy. We all, and we you know, Ryan knows this when we get on our meetings for Bank On or Fin, we just love on each other. And we have to do that. Just like any of us who are therapists on the call, we got to have a therapist ourselves. Coaches need coaches, right?
Yes. Yeah, well, that brings up something that I think is important too. And I want everybody to consider this. I want you to consider, since we're talking about self-care, we're talking about doing things, talking to other coaches, what about coaching yourself? Okay, so here it is. You have professional self, you as your role with your agency as the coach, as the trainer, the educator, and then you have personal self, the one who you know, you're a spouse, you're a mother, you're a father, you're a family member, auntie, uncle, you know, all these other things that we do, but they're intricately intertwined. And so the question is, as part of your self-care, and I want you guys to think about this because this is something that has helped me, is that are you okay with stepping outside of your professional self, right? And then taking a look at, well, how are things going? How am I showing up? How am I being effective? Am I coaching right? Am I making sure that I'm client led? I mean, those kinds of things. Do an assessment, but at the same time, ask yourself, am I treating personal self the right way? Is personal self getting enough sleep? Is personal self getting exercise and eating right and spending quality time with family? Because there is some sort of time that we all have to be faced with making sure that we have balance. Because you all know, if depending upon your context for the day, if you had a wonderful morning before you step out to go to work or log on to a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting, if everything's going great, your energy level might be very high and you're very awesome, very bubbly. But then there are times when things are not going so hot, you know, things are intense, and then now you're showing up for work, showing up for a coaching session, and you're in this other headspace. Okay. So I just want to talk about that. And because when we talk about relational coaching, the first most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. Right? Is myself, is self-preservation. So I just want to talk about that for a minute, Minda Michelle, and see what we can get from some of the audience about their thoughts on this.
Okay, I love self-coaching, you're saying?
Yeah,
Not just
talking about,
self-care?
to take care of
Okay.
self, correct.
Yeah.
To
Let
your
me
point.
back up and because I saw a great comment by Tiara. Let me back up and just make sure we're getting all these amazing comments from these amazing amazing coaches. What did Tiara? Charnel, self-care is acknowledging that we can't help or solve all for everyone, but the fact that we're all here listening and offering tips and validating conclusions that they've drawn is important. Self-care. Debriefing. Yes, debriefing. We're talking about walks, meditation, stretching, yoga, power naps. We had a conversation about that, Devin, the other day. Yes, power naps are awesome. And then where was Tiara's comment? Tiara said something about scheduling, right? Scheduling time for self-care, Tiara, I think you said.
Yeah, I got her comment. Tiara
Yeah, and
says,
then
I love all these self-care ideas, but I think the kicker is scheduling the self-care. Otherwise, it often just becomes a thought.
yeah, and let me offer us this. Self-care is the buzzword. Somebody said to me the other day that she views it, was it somebody in this space that she views it as investing in herself rather than just self-care, right? If we're investing in myself, because if I'm investing, a lot of times we think investing money, we're putting something of value toward myself. So yes, our time is valuable, right? It's so am I investing in myself? That's it. 5 minutes to walk. Yep. Fresh air. I love this. Abby says it's hard. There definitely been times I haven't showed up as the best coaching Abby version and feeling guilt. Ooh, Abby. Yeah. We feel guilt. And what do we do, Dev, to not feel guilty about bringing our best version of ourselves? Yes.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm going to make a suggestion, and I think that that you treat yourself as a case study. Okay, and what I mean by that is we all want to show up as our best coaching self, or the best trainer, or the best educator to the people we serve. You know, at no time do we want to feel like we didn't do what we should have done or what we could have done. So
Mhm.
what I'd like to offer everyone is to write out your case study, and this is private. This is for your own purposes, but just write out, what your scenario is, in terms of, your workload, your ability to even handle the things that are in your sphere of responsibility, your financial well-being, all of that. Create a case study for yourself, and then look at it, and then begin to think about how you would coach you, right? So
Mm,
coach yourself.
mm.
Try that and see how it goes, and then do your best to do the things that you have raised awareness of yourself of. Do those things, put them into practice after
Ryan's
you.
laughing. Ryan,
Oh,
write
yeah,
your case
yes,
study.
yes.
I
So
see him
I'm
laughing.
that would be a suggestion that I would have, Minda, Michelle, so that we can really just kind of take this really and take control. Because at the end of the day, it's that relationship we have with ourselves. If we're feeling great, we're going to coach great, right?
Yeah,
It just works that way.
yeah,
And so we have to pull in different self-care techniques, and I think self-coaching is part of that.
yeah.
What are your
So
thoughts?
we're at 11:22, Dev. Can we take the next, what, 4 or 5 minutes to ask everyone to just privately, we will take 5 minutes right here, because some of us, we're going to go about our day and we're not going to do this. So can we take a few minutes, Dev,
Take a
before,
couple
I know
minutes,
we have to
yeah.
leave the last couple of minutes for announcements,
And
but
this
can we
last
take
couple minutes, and then,
4 or 5
yes.
minutes and let's write out our own scenario, y'all, as if we were our client. And then we'll leave it to all of us to actually act on it later. But I know a lot of us will leave this call and never even write it down. So can we take this next, it's 11:23. Can we take the next 5 minutes? Is that okay,
We
Ryan?
need to give Ryan 5 minutes, so we could take the next 2 minutes.
Oh, Lord. Okay. 2 minutes, y'all. And I'm putting the timer on. Let's write out our own scenario, please. Ryan, you got some good music? A half a song?
Put
While
me
we're
on the
doing
spot.
this,
Go for it, Devin.
yeah, while we're doing this, this is the part of today that we really wanted to get to, is for us to really take a moment to self-reflect on all of these things that we've been discussing today, through this conversation, because whether we realize it or not, people who need us, the world needs us. They need us um, totally to show up as our best selves as often as we can. And so what do we need to do to make that happen? Because that's where the power of relational coaching comes in. When we are being our best and we're delivering information and coaching and guidance in a manner that's really transformational to the folks that we serve. Because at the end of the day, the question is, what changed for that person as a result of this engagement? What was that? So go ahead and write out that information.
I'm not gonna to make everybody listen to 30 seconds of my favorite jazz song. That feels like more trouble than it's worth. Just imagine your favorite elevator music in your head. Allow that to permeate your thoughts.
With that, I want to say thank you to all of you for allowing me and be here with you all today to share some of these thoughts that we were having around relational coaching, and really appreciate all the wonderful ideas and comments and sharing that occurred today. And
Yeah.
thank you, Michelle, for your awesomeness.
Thank you, brother. What a privilege to do this with you. Thank you. Ryan, I think we're at 2 minutes, dear.
Holy cow. I feel like my brain is bigger. And I know that I'm gonna have to go back and watch this recording to truly turn all of this wonderful material into something that I can use in my own day-to-day. My sticky note with a get up out of your desk and go hug your son is going somewhere that I can see it. I greatly appreciate everyone spending a little bit of time with us today. please, I threw the link into the chat. Take a minute and provide us a little bit of feedback on what you thought of our workshop. We use this information both to confirm that Devin and Minda Michelle are awesome, but also as we are planning future workshops. And speaking of which, I do encourage everybody to check out Financial Wellness Part 2, Trauma and Financial Experiences, where we are taking this conversation from our side of the desk, from how we validate our own lived experience, to how do we validate the lived experience of the clients that we see and we work with every day. I'm also going to drop a link into the chat for a Working Families Tax Credit Train the Trainer coming up next week. Please make sure that any of your folks who might be eligible for the Washington version of the Earned Income Tax Credit take that opportunity. We have some great resources here in Washington, and it's folks' money. So make sure that folks get access to it. And lastly, if you want to have these conversations more often and connect with other folks who are doing financial coaching in Washington, I encourage you to join the Washington Financial Coaching Network, which is the fourth Wednesday of every month from 2 to 3:30. We are a group of practitioners who are in the work of having money conversations. You don't have to have financial coach in your job description, but if you talk to people about money, it is a great place to connect with other coaches. With that, I just want to give one more big round of applause and share all of my love for Devin and Minda Michelle. Every time that I have a big question, I know that I can reach out to them and they will give me a big answer. And if not, then we know that this is a question that we need to bring some friends in, and that's where I look to everyone here in this room, because I love all of you as my friends. This is a great group of people, and I couldn't imagine doing this work with other people. Please take a minute, give your love to Devin and Minda Michelle. This recording will be available on YouTube sometime in the next day or two. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. You should be getting a follow-up email in the next couple of days as well. So I'm happy to give everybody about 60 seconds of your day back. I feel like the last 90 minutes have been an absolute joy, and I cannot wait to see what comes next. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan, for doing all
Thanks,
this.
everybody. Yes.
Thanks, Kev. Thanks, everybody.